in the bowels of New Jersey State Prison, known to everyone inside as the Hard Brick City. The air always carried a certain weight, heavy with bleach, sweat, and the faint metallic tang of rust from decades-old bars. But on that one day, a day that would live in the memory of every man on 3 Wing, the air turned toxic. It wasn't the usual weed smoke that drifted through the vents or the occasional whiff of tobacco smuggled in through visits. This was something darker, something engineered in basements and mailed in under the guise of legal letters. This was K2, synthetic cannabis, the devil's smoke. And on that shift, it hit like a tidal wave. Brick City Facemask. Dewan Ingram to the state, but Facemask to anyone who'd survived the streets of Newark with him, had seen it building for weeks. He'd been locked up long enough to read the signs better than most COs. The young bucks were saving their commissary like squirrels before winter, trading honey buns and soups for cash slips that would buy that good paper. Guys who usually talked trash nonstop were getting quiet, eyes hollow, movements twitchy. The mailroom was suddenly flooded with envelopes marked legal, thick with drawings or letters that smelled faintly chemical when you held them close. Facemask knew what that meant. A new batch was coming in, stronger than the last. He remembered the first time K2 had really taken hold in the joint, back around 2014, when it started creeping in through the cracks. At first, dudes treated it like a joke. Cheaper than real weed, easy to get past the dogs, no smell that lingered. But then the overdoses started. Grown men, 250 pounds of muscle, dropping to their knees like they'd been shot, foaming at the mouth, eyes rolled back white. Medical rushing in with Narcan that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. Facemask had watched one of his closest homeboys from the set turn into a zombie right in front of him, stiff as a board, falling face first on a concrete tier, blood pooling from where his teeth cracked on impact. That day, though, was different. It wasn't 1 or 2 guys testing a new batch. It was coordinated, planned, like someone had flooded the wing on purpose. Facemask was in his cell, reading an old letter from his daughter, when the first screams echoed down the tier. Not the usual fight yells. These were primal, animal sounds. He stepped to his door and peered through the small window. What he saw would stay burned in his mind forever. Big Mike from Camden, a dude built like a linebacker who'd been lifting weights since he was 12, was standing in the middle of the dare and buck naked, swinging at invisible enemies. His eyes were wide, pupils blown, sweat pouring off him like he'd just run a marathon. "Get him off me! Get him off!" he kept screaming, clawing at his own skin until blood ran down his arms. Around him, 3 other guys were already on the floor, one seizing violently, another curled in the fetal position, whispering to demons only he could see, the third just staring at the ceiling with a smile that wasn't human. The smell hit next, that chemical, plastic burning stench that was the signature of K2 when it was fresh soaked. It poured out of cells like smoke from a fire. Facemask saw papers being passed hand to hand before the COs even noticed, guys lighting up joints rolled from Bible pages or coloring book sheets sprayed with the stuff. One dude lit his and took 2 hits before he dropped the joint and started running in circles, slamming into walls until his nose exploded in blood. The COs on duty that day were Sergeant Ramirez and Officer Jenkins. Ramirez a veteran who'd seen everything. Jenkins a newer guy still trying to prove he wasn't soft. They were doing count when the chaos erupted. Jenkins froze for a second, radio in hand, watching Big Mike charge toward him like a bull. Ramirez didn't hesitate. "Code blue. Code blue. 3 Wing," he barked into his radio, voice steady even as panic spread. Within minutes, the rapid response team was suiting up, helmets, shields, pepper spray, the works. But minutes in prison can feel like hours when men are dying. Facemask watched from his cell as more guys hit the deck. One young kid from Trenton, couldn't have been more than 20, started climbing the bars like a monkey, screaming that the floor was lava. He made it halfway up before his grip failed, and he fell 10 feet onto concrete. The crack of his ankle breaking echoed like a gunshot. Another dude started banging his head against the cell door, over and over, until blood smeared the window. The worst was Lil Theater, a rapper from Irvington who'd been writing bars since he got locked up. He was known for keeping everyone laughing with his freestyles during rec. That day, he smoked half a joint and within 5 minutes was on his knees praying to Allah, then Jesus, then screaming at both that they weren't real. He stripped naked and started masturbating right there in the day room while crying hysterically. "I can't feel it. I can't feel nothing," he kept yelling. When the COs finally got to him, he fought like a wild animal, taking 3 of them to pin him down. Facemask pounded on his door. "Yo, let me out. I can help calm these dudes down." But the prison doesn't work like that. Lockdown means lockdown. Everyone in their cells, no exceptions. He could only watch as medical teams rushed in with stretchers, Narcan kits, oxygen masks. They worked on the worst cases first. Chest compressions on guys whose hearts had stopped, needles into arms that were already track marked from years of chasing highs inside. The air grew thicker, with the chemical smell mixed now with blood and vomit. Guys in cells who hadn't even smoked were starting to feel it secondhand. The ventilation system pumping the fumes everywhere. Facemask felt his own head getting light, heart racing unnaturally. He backed away from his door, sat on his bunk, and started doing push-ups to keep the panic down. He'd seen too many men lose their minds to this poison to let it take him too. By the time the response team had extracted the worst cases, 12 men were on stretchers heading to medical. 3 were in full cardiac arrest. 1 would never wake up again. The rest of the wing was in shock. Some guys laughing hysterically from residual high, others crying silently in their cells, realizing how close they had come to death. As the lockdown dragged into hours, Facemask lay on his bunk staring at the ceiling. He thought about his daughter, about the streets of Newark where this same poison was killing kids daily. He thought about how prison was supposed to be punishment, not a death sentence by slow chemical suicide. The devil's smoke had come calling that day, and it had collected souls. But this was only the beginning. The real story, the one that would become legend in Brick City, was what came next when the administration decided enough was enough. The lockdown lasted 3 days. 3 days of no rec, no showers, no phone calls. Meals slid through the door slots like we were in the hole. But nobody complained. After what we'd witnessed, the silence felt like mercy. The wing smelled like a hospital mixed with chemical plant. Bleach poured everywhere to mask the K2 residue, blood clean but still faintly visible in cracks. Medical kept coming through, checking on guys who'd overdosed, making sure nobody else coded in their cell. Facemask spent those days thinking. He'd seen waves of drugs come and go, tobacco when it got banned, then Suboxone strips, then K2 when that got hot. But this batch was different, stronger, meaner. Someone on the outside was cooking up death and mailing in, and someone inside was distributing it like candy. He knew the players, the shot callers who ran the mail game, the workers in industries who could move product, the porters who cleaned cells and passed notes. On the 3rd day, the administration made their move. It started with shakedowns at 4 a.m., not the usual pat-down, feel-your-ball searches. This was full tactical. Teams in riot gear, dogs barking, cells torn apart inch by inch. They hit every known smoker first, then branched out. Facemask watched through his window as they dragged guys out in handcuffs, cells flipped upside down, mattresses sliced open, walls checked for hollow spots, toilets dismantled. They found hundreds of soaked papers hidden in legal mail, and the spines of books, taped under bunks. They found completed joints ready to light, bottles of spray solution smuggled in through visiting. But the big find came in cell 47, home of a dude called Knowledge who claimed to be 5% but ran the K2 game like a CEO. Under his bunk, welded into the frame, they found a stash big enough to keep the whole wing high for months. Word spread fast through the vents in whispers. Knowledge sang like a bird when they threatened him with new charges. Names started dropping. The whole network unraveled in hours. Guys who'd been untouchable for years suddenly found themselves in the hole, facing distribution charges that could add decades. But the administration wasn't done. The warden, a hard-nosed woman named Captain Ellis who'd come up through the ranks, called a mandatory wing meeting once the shakedowns wrapped. First one in years. They marched us all to the gym in chains, sat us down like school kids. Ellis stood at the front with Ramirez and the major, face like stone. "I lost an inmate this week," she started, voice carrying without a mic. 24 years old, mother of two on the outside, died chasing a high that came through my mailroom. That stops today. She laid out the new rules. All incoming mail photocopied only. No originals unless legal and searched. Visiting stripped to non-contact only for 6 months. Random cell searches doubled. Dogs on every shift. Anyone caught with K2 facing immediate transfer to ADSEG and new criminal charges. No exceptions. Some guys grumbled, but nobody spoke up. We'd seen the bodies. We'd smelled the death. Facemask got called in separately later. Ellis knew his reputation. Respected on the yard. No dirt on his jacket. Podcast reaching thousands on the outside. Ingram, she said, using his government name, you've got a voice these young ones listen to. I need you to tell this story. All of it. The good, the bad, the dead. Because if they hear it from one of their own, maybe they'll listen. He agreed. Not for the administration. For the young kids coming in fresh. Thinking prison drugs were just part of the game. For his daughter. So she'd never have to visit him in a box. When he finally got phone access again, Facemask called his people on the outside, running the podcast. I got the one, he told them. The craziest story yet. The day the Devil's Smoke tried to take the whole wing. The episode dropped a month later, once he was out of lockdown and could record properly. It broke records. Hundreds of thousands of downloads, messages pouring in from families thanking him for telling the truth, from inmates in other joints saying it saved lives. Even some COs reached out anonymously, saying it helped them understand what they were really fighting. But the story didn't end there. Months later, Facemask heard through the grapevine that the K2 game had changed. Prices tripled. Quality dropped. Guys were scared to smoke what had come in. The network knowledge ran was dismantled. Players scattered to different joints or facing decades more. He saw Lil Theater one day in the yard, walking with a limp from his ankle that never healed right. Dude looked 10 years older. I quit that shit, Theater told him quietly. Your story, man, when you described me that day, I didn't even remember it. Scare me straight. Big Mike got transferred upstate after another incident. But word was he was clean now, too. The kid who died. His mother wrote Facemask a letter thanking him for keeping her son's name alive, for making his death mean something. Prison never gets fixed. Drugs still come in. Men still chase escape. But that day, that wave, that response, it shifted something. The Devil's Smoke didn't win. Not completely. Facemask still tells a story when new fish come in wide-eyed, thinking they're tough. He tells them about the day grown men turned into zombies, about the blood on the tier, about the mother who lost her son to poison paper. He tells them because someone has to, because in Brick City, survival isn't just about lifting weights or holding your mud in a fight. Sometimes survival is about choosing not to light that joint, not to chase that high, not to let the devil win. And every time he tells it, he hopes one more kid listens, one more life saved, one less mother crying. That's the real reckoning, not the shakedowns or the new rules. The message that finally got through, this poison will drop you. It will own you, and it will end you, but you can choose not to let it.